Welcome back. We are discussing the lesson Life Processes. In the previous sessions, we have discussed about nutrition and respiration. Now, in the process of nutrition, the final products obtained, for example, glucose, amino acids, fats and glycerol, they need to be transported from the small intestine to different cells of the body. Also, in the case of respiration, the oxygen present in the lungs needs to be transported to different cells for the process of respiration, where food is broken down. In the process, wasteful products such as carbon dioxide and other nitrogenous wastes will accumulate in the body. This needs to be collected and thrown out of the body. For all these processes, we require a specialized system known as transportation system or circulatory system. The circulatory system requires three things. One is a medium through which these different substances are transported. This medium could be either blood or lymph. I am talking about higher vertebrates, not in the lower organisms. This blood needs to be transported from one place to another place. It requires specialized networks in which blood can be carried. So, blood vessels are present. In order to transport blood from one place to another, a certain amount of pressure is required. Without pressure, blood cannot be moved to far places like the toe. So, we require a pump which will pump the blood at high pressure, for which we have an organ known as the heart. So the circulatory system or the transportation system is made up of a pump, that is heart. It contains blood vessels and the medium through which all the substances are transported is the blood. Let us talk about these three in detail. In the case of animals, blood, as you know, is known as the fluid connective tissue. Blood connects all the different cells in the body. Blood is the medium through which water is transported, oxygen is transported, nutrients are transported, waste products are also transported. This blood is made up of two components, a liquid component known as the plasma, and you have the cellular component that contains RBCs, WBCs and platelets. As you already know, in the plasma component of the blood, carbon dioxide is in the dissolved form which is transported. Also, nutrients are dissolved in the plasma, they are transported. Oxygen is transported by the RBCs, red blood cells. White blood cells are required for protecting the body against any foreign pathogens. And then there is a third component of the cell known as the platelets. Now, if there were any wound or tear in the circulatory system, there should be a auto-repairing mechanism. For instance, let us say a blood vessel is cut. If the cut is not repaired, there will be loss of blood, leakage of blood all the time. More importantly, because of the loss of blood, there will be a drop in the pressure in the blood vessels, due to which blood may not be carried to different farther places. So the platelets will rush in to the site of injury, wherein they will form a clot and will plug the leakage of blood. So platelets help in the auto repair system of the entire circulatory system. Lymph is also called as tissue fluid. How is lymph formed? Now, the blood vessels, they form small vessels known as capillaries, inside which we can see the cells and we have the plasma. Sometimes the plasma can leak out through the small pores present in the capillaries and they accumulate in between the cells. This is what is known as tissue fluid or intercellular fluid.
This tissue fluid is then carried by the lymphatic vessel and forms the lymphatic system.
The digested fats, they are absorbed and they are stored in the lymph, which needs to be transported to different parts of the body. The second component of the circulatory system are the blood vessels. There are essentially two types of blood vessels. They are called as arteries and veins. Their main function is to carry blood from the heart to different parts of the body, or to collect blood from different parts of the body and take it to the heart. Let us look at the differences between arteries and veins. Arteries are specialized blood vessels which transport blood from the heart to different parts of the body. You can say cells, organs, body, etc. Veins are the blood vessels that carry blood from different parts of the body to the heart. Now, because blood needs to be pumped from the heart and it needs to be carried to faraway places, the pressure inside the arteries is very high, due to which they have thick walls. Arteries have thick walls, whereas veins have thin walls. Now, when the blood is being transported, especially when the blood is being carried from body towards the heart, there should not be any backflow of blood. So, to prevent any backflow of blood, veins have valves. So, valves are present. Valves, they will prevent backflow of blood, whereas in arteries, valves are absent. Now, when the arteries carry blood from the heart, let us say it reaches a particular organ, the arteries will branch into very fine vessels called as arterioles, and these will further branch into even more smaller blood vessels called as capillaries. Similarly, when veins are present near the organs or the cells, they are found as capillaries. They will then become bigger venules, and the venules will become larger veins. So near the organs and cells, you can find the arteries and veins in the form of capillaries. This network of arteries, veins and capillaries is responsible for moving the blood from one part of the body to the heart and from heart to different parts of the body. Blood will always move from high pressure to low pressure, for which a pump is required. This pump is our heart. The human heart is a muscular organ made up of cardiac muscles. It is roughly the size of one's fist. It is situated between the two lungs and slightly tilted towards the left side. Heart shows advancements in different animals. If you consider the vertebrates, fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals, the number of chambers varies in all these categories. For instance, in fishes, heart can be divided into two chambers, one atrium and one ventricle, whereas in the cases of amphibians and reptiles, there are three chambers, two atrium and one lower ventricle. In birds and mammals, we find there are four chambers. The human heart has two upper chambers which are small called as atrium, and the two lower chambers are called as ventricles. We can also divide the heart into two sides based on the type of blood it receives. The right side of the heart, it receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body, which is labeled as blue color in the diagram, whereas the left side of the heart, it receives fresh oxygenated blood from the lungs, which can be seen as red color. Therefore, we can divide the heart into right auricle and right ventricle, left auricle and left ventricle. Let us see how exactly is circulation of blood done by the human heart. In human beings, we find a closed circulatory system, meaning the blood is transported inside the blood vessels. When the fish takes in the water, these gills are supplied with blood vessels, as you already know. When water passes over these gills, oxygen present in the water, it is taken by the blood vessels. These blood vessels are then taken to the heart, from where they are pumped to different parts of the body. In this case, the blood will pass through the heart only once, which is what is called as single circulation. Contrary, in human beings, we find double circulation, which is very critical, especially in higher animals. Why? Because higher animals like birds and mammals, they have higher energy requirements. This is because they are homeothermic. They need to maintain a constant internal temperature irrespective of the outside temperature. Which is, in order to keep the internal temperature constant, energy is required. So these animals have higher energy needs. Higher energy requires higher oxygen. So double circulation, it prevents the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. In the case of fishes, amphibians and reptiles, a little amount of mixing is still allowed, whereas in birds and mammals, there should be complete separation of deoxygenated blood. In human beings, we find it in the right side, and the oxygenated blood, which is found on the left side of the heart. Let us discuss about double circulation. Double circulation is very simple and very easy. Let us start from the tissues. Every tissue or organ has its own energy needs. So the cells present in them, they have already used up the oxygen, and the waste product carbon dioxide is present in the cell or the organ or the tissue. So the blood vessels will be present as capillaries. These capillaries will then form what is called as veins, because veins are the blood vessels that carry deoxygenated blood from the cell to the heart. Deoxygenated blood means it has higher concentration of carbon dioxide, less concentration of oxygen. This deoxygenated blood is then taken to the heart, wherein it is taken into the right atrium, marked as RA. So from the lower parts of the body, there is one vein, and from higher parts of the body, from head to brain, blood is taken. All this deoxygenated blood is pumped into the right atrium, from where, when the right atrium contracts, this deoxygenated blood is then pushed into right ventricle. So the direction of flow of blood. From the right ventricle, blood is then carried through a artery called as the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery, pulmonary means referring to lungs. This is the blood vessel that carries blood from the heart to the lung. In the lung, we know lungs receive fresh oxygen during the process of breathing, and we have already seen that exchange of gases takes place between the alveoli and the capillaries. Therefore, the deoxygenated blood, carbon dioxide, will be thrown out and fresh oxygen will be pumped into the blood. This fresh oxygen is then carried by the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. When the left atrium contracts, blood is then pushed into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, a artery, which is the largest artery known as aorta, this will transport the oxygenated blood from the left ventricle to different parts of the body, to upper parts as well as to the lower parts. This completes the circulation process. Now, if you observe, blood travels through the heart twice in one circulation. First, blood comes into the heart, from where blood goes into the lungs. Then, once again, blood comes from the lungs into the heart and then goes back. In each circulation, blood passes through the heart twice. Therefore, this is what is called as double circulation, which ensures that the deoxygenated blood and the oxygenated blood, they do not mix, which is very much essential in higher vertebrates like birds and mammals. This is about the transportation process in human beings.